This video is set to release exactly 1 year after I published this book, Off With His Head, A Guide to Spiritual Awakening in a Polarized, Radicalized, and Digitized Society. A Guide to Spiritual Awakening. Well, am I spiritually awakened yet? I'm proud of this book, but a lot has changed. And if I knew what I knew now, what I'm learning now, what I'm experiencing now, I probably would have added it to the book. I probably would have trimmed this down a chapter or two. Maybe added in a new one. Maybe not talked about politics for 2 chapters. Or maybe it would have been a book all about politics. When I think back to writing this book, it was like I was in this paradise of my own making. This intellectual cove. Like my little private curiosity, exploration, where I'm able to explore these intellectual, spiritual ideas, to write about them, to think about them. And I definitely miss that. But I also will say, with a year of maturity under my belt, is that the writing of this book is not the thing. What I'm doing now, not just recording this video, what I'm doing in my life, in my career, that's the thing. And I want to explain that a little bit more, give you some actual context. So, since September of 2024, I moved to Florida with my girlfriend, and I have not had a job in the traditional sense. I've started a marketing agency, and I'm doing it full time. Now, in terms of what that means, the specifics, what I can say as simply as I possibly can is that it's tough. It's dependent on other people. It's not like being in my own little cove where I get to explore ideas without the external world telling me, hey, this works, or hey, this doesn't work. That's another way of saying there were no marketplace dynamics when it came to writing this book. There was no publisher I was trying to impress. There was no number of sales I was trying to get. I just had to get this book out of my head. But it's different now, because running a business is entirely about getting approval from the marketplace. Because if you don't, then you're out of business. And so that's all to say that this book is extremely special to me. But I don't think it's fair to say it's a guide to spiritual awakening. Because I think I wrote it from a very, and I say this with hesitation, but with my privileged situation when I was writing it. And what I mean by that is, I had a job that was paying me well. I only had to work 4 days a week. And I was making, a $50,000 a year salary with tips. I mean, if you want to add it up. But I had the freedom to write this. I had the free time. And it's entirely different now. And I want to write more. But to write more, to write in this almost blocked off time where, no matter what happens in the external world, I have these few hours to write. I can't say it feels like that anymore. But I do think that it will appear again. I think moments like these, the writing of this book, they come in cycles. And right now, I think I'm in the business mode cycle, the business mindset. And I know, I can say this with absolute certainty, I will return to the spiritual side of the equation. the internal side, the reflective, introspective side. And maybe I'm being a little introspective right now, but I will tell you, if you saw me, the other 15 hours of my waking life, you wouldn't think too much about introspection, or you wouldn't say it's introspective. But I'm making this video because it's been a year, and a year of massive disruption. I mean, yes, in my life, but I'm also talking about the world at large. Now, I don't want to make this a video about politics, and I know that some people will probably feel a little bit optimistic about the state of the world, and some people perhaps more pessimistic than they ever have in their lives. I'm probably talking to both of those people simultaneously. And that's not even to mention everything going on with AI, which I've made a few videos about it here and there, but it is truly moving a mile a minute. I mean, without a doubt, by the time I upload this video, I'm sure there's already going to be a new update. Just to give you context of when I'm recording this, O3 Mini is out from ChatGPT, which is an unbelievably good model, and it's the mini version. But I'm getting a little bit sidetracked, and I don't think you came to watch this video to hear me talk about AI. But to come back to the writing of this book, and really, I think what this book stands for is a creative work done for its own sake. I think that I'll speak for myself, but I really think this applies to anyone watching this video. It's that we all have these little ideas, these things that we might jot down in our notes app. Oh, this would make a really good book idea, a song idea, a short story, some project for art, something to post on social media. And I still get those ideas. But the difference between having those ideas and even jotting down the brainstorm ideas, between that and having a finished, polished product, a finished, polished work that you can hold in your hands, I think that there's probably three things that make the difference between the people who have these ideas, who brainstorm, who call themselves creative, but never have a piece of work that they can hold up and say, this is my own. I think the three things are, one, you have to have the financial stability. And I don't take it for granted for a second that I had a really, really nice situation with my job when I was writing this, where I only had to work 4 days a week and was making, a full-time income. So financial stability, the fact that on a Monday and a Tuesday, because my work schedule was a little bit weird at the time, that I just knew all I had to do today was write. And I didn't even have to. I wanted to. And maybe I'd go to the grocery store and treat myself to some sushi. But it was solely about, I had the time freedom. And it came from having that financial stability. I think the other side of things is, I think the idea has to relate to something in the real world. Now, what I mean by that is, even if you're writing fiction, even if it's a short film, I think it has to relate to something in your own life or the world at large. Like, when I was writing this book, yes, I was talking about my life in some ways, but I was writing because of the state of the world. If I read the subtitle again, in a polarized, radicalized, and digitized society, I thought, and we still are, but I thought 2023, 2024 have been just insane times. And I mean, having conversations with people, whether it's political disagreements or whether it's, like I said, the AI changes going on. But we are in a very, very disruptive world. And knowing that this book, if someone read it, it might put them at ease. It might if someone's having an existential crisis, it may just make them realize, hey, in the grand scheme of things, in the 7 billion years the 7 billion years since the Big Bang, I might be wrong about that number, we're just here for a moment, for a snap of the finger. And some people that might scare them. For some people, I think it brings deep, deep comfort. And what I wanted to do is the people who get scared by that idea is to write a book like this to persuade them that that is what brings peace. And that the fear, the doubt, that's ego confusing what is reality, which reality is simply this moment now, confusing reality with some type of hell created in one's own mind from one's own thoughts. And if you can step out of thoughts, you can step into reality. But I don't want to get too metaphysical. I want to come back to the list. Financial stability, the work, the idea must relate to something that truly seeks to change something. So, in some ways, writing this book changed me, but I also saw it to change other people for the better. And just, again, to simplify, to bring a sense of comfort in a disruptive world. And I think the third thing is that you have to love the content. Not the medium, but the message. And so I do differ that from, does it relate to the world at large or not? There are some topics that I have a passing interest in, but that I wouldn't write about because exploring them is not interesting enough to me. And I know that probably sounds super obvious. But I think that right now we are living in a world where the stuff that gets popular on social media is the stuff that has been done before. It's, if this video went viral, I'm going to make a video like that video. And so what I'm basically saying, the difference in what I'm saying, is that a book like this, which didn't sell well, which didn't make waves in the marketplace, it mattered to me. And that is the reason that I finished it. If the whole reason I was finishing this was to maybe get a book deal, maybe someone will find it and they'll want to hire me for something, then I would never, ever, ever finish this book. Because I think when it comes to creative work, the kind that's done for its own sake, like this book, I think that, let me back up and say this. I wrote the book and then I figured out how to market it. I didn't think about what's going to make a best-selling book. And I think that as we enter a time, we're already in the time, but as it gets more and more obvious that we can write a prompt to AI and it will spit out a book, and not just a one-shot like it used to, giving some generic story, but like a really, really good book, like really well researched. Like you may not, there's some stuff coming out where we're not in the age which we were a year ago of, the AI can kind of write a poem and it can rhyme really well. We're well past that. We are well past that. But my point is that as we're getting into the age where AI can do everything better than us, and genuinely better than us, not like humans still have that thing, but as we're in that state, I think stuff like this becomes more important. Not this book, not reading it, but you, the person watching, creating something for its own sake, without using cheaters, as in, oh, I'll just have, AI write this part. Doing the work because it's a voluntary challenge, because it's difficult. Because I think that's where fulfillment lies. And maybe that's an obvious statement. Maybe you've never connected the dots on that before. But I did put it in this book. I can't remember what chapter, but voluntary challenge. That is the solution, the fix to an existential crisis. And I think that if not this year, then next year for sure, there's going to be a lot of layoffs. A lot of people whose lives are disrupted because of AI. And this is not a video about how to make money, how to leverage AI. That's a totally different topic. But purely from a maintaining and sustaining the meaning in your life, it's going to come from you inventing voluntary challenges for yourself. Doing stuff that's hard, that you find hard. If you know how to play a musical instrument, practicing songs is not a challenge. But maybe writing an album of work, that's a challenge. When I wrote this book, writing is not a challenge. I've written essays the length of one of these chapters before. I've written poems before. But what was different was bringing it all together so that I can now sit here 1 year later, pull this off my bookshelf and say, wow, it's been a year.